Many of you believe your moments of doubt are small things, the fleeting tremors of a human heart learning to trust. Yet I tell you, nothing shapes your world more quietly than the doubt you do not see. You assume the end with conviction, and for a brief hour you walk as the one who has received, yet beneath that confidence there stirs another state, subtle as a whisper, asking, but what if it does not come? That unspoken question is the seed of a different harvest. For imagination hears only the assumption you dwell in most. Stay with me now, for in a moment we shall look directly at this hidden state of doubt and see how it silently governs the world you call your own, even while you believe you have chosen the end. To understand this hidden state, we must first see doubt for what it truly is. It is not the sharp sting of fear, nor the trembling of a momentary emotion. It is a dwelling place of consciousness, a quiet room within you where you linger without noticing. Many imagine their fear is the cause, but fear is only the shadow of a deeper assumption. The real doubt is the state you return to when the senses speak loudly, the state in which you try to uphold your desire while secretly preparing for its failure. And because consciousness is the only reality, the state you occupy most faithfully becomes the world you must meet. Most men believe they doubt only when they feel uncertainty, yet the hidden doubt has no feeling at all. It is calm, subtle, almost polite, and for that reason it is often mistaken as reason or caution. But I tell you, any inner movement that asks for proof before acceptance is doubt in its purest form. The moment you say, let me wait and see, you have left the end you once assumed and entered the waiting state, which is the denial of fulfillment. You cannot stand in the promise while entertaining the possibility of its absence, for the law responds only to the state you occupy, not the one you momentarily admire. So tonight, let us bring this into the light, for you cannot transform what you refuse to recognize. Doubt appears not as a storm, but as a gentle invitation to return to the familiar self, the self that believes only what the senses decree. It whispers, be realistic, protect yourself, prepare for disappointment. And when you obey it, you abandon the world you had already fashioned in imagination. This is the hidden craft of doubt. It does not fight your desire. It simply offers you a safer state to inhabit, and you enter it without protest. And so the work before us is simple: to discern the state you dwell in and reclaim the end with quiet certainty. There is a moment in every seeker's journey when the hidden doubt begins its silent work. It does not come with noise or argument. It comes with the smallest impulse to check whether anything has changed. You look for a sign, a message, an opening in the outer world, and in that very act you leave the state of fulfillment and enter the state of questioning. This is the subtle trap, for the mind convinces you that you are merely being sensible, yet imagination hears the inquiry, not the desire. The question itself becomes the seed of a world where the desire is still absent. You must see clearly that doubt expresses itself not in emotion, but in behavior. The busy checking, the constant comparing, the quiet monitoring of time, these are the rituals of unbelief. Each time you ask, has it happened yet? You declare within yourself that it has not. Each time you look outside for assurance, you testify that the inner act is incomplete. You call it carefulness, but it is simply a return to the former state, for no man checks on what he truly believes to be finished. When you know a thing is done, you do not ask when it will come. You walk as one who already possesses it. This is the doubt loop, the silent circuit that binds so many to a world they wish to leave. They imagine the end at night, but by morning they have slipped back into the old man. rehearsing the same worries, performing the same mental inquiries, returning to the very state they sought to transcend. Doubt is not the enemy, unconscious loyalty is. For every man is faithful to something, and most are faithful to their fears. But once you recognize the loop, you are no longer bound by it, for awareness itself is the beginning of liberation. There is a form of doubt, more subtle than fear and far more dangerous than open disbelief. It is the faith that asks for conditions, the inner posture that says, I believe if the world will show me a sign. This conditional faith is not faith at all, for it binds the unseen to the approval of the seen. You imagine the end with tenderness, yet you hold a quiet clause within your heart, demanding evidence before surrender. But the moment you require proof, you declare that the inner act is insufficient, and in that declaration, you undo the very assumption you sought to establish. You must understand that imagination answers to loyalty, not effort. It is not the intensity of your desire that moves the world, but the steadiness of the state you occupy. When you imagine the end, yet cling to the former self, you serve two masters, and the law cannot honor such division. The silent sabotage occurs when you return to reasoning, when you measure the distance between where you stand and where you wish to be, forgetting that the act was finished the moment you assumed it. To measure the distance is to resurrect the old state, and the old state will always reclaim its own. So the great work of faith is not struggle, but fidelity. It is the quiet refusal to betray your inner vision, even when appearances plead for your attention. To remain in the end is not to force a feeling, but to rest in the truth, trusting that unseen currents are already carrying you to its fulfillment. If you seek a sign, you confess you do not believe the seed has taken root. If you question the manner, you confess you doubt the wisdom that guides all things. Therefore, do not ask how, do not ask when, simply abide in the state you have chosen, for that loyalty is the death of doubt. There comes a moment in every imaginal act when two states contend for your loyalty. The former state calls you back with the familiarity of its sorrow, while the new state whispers with the quiet confidence of fulfillment. These two cannot live together, for each demands your full attention. You may speak your desire with conviction, yet inwardly revisit the old conversations of fear, and in that return, the old state rises to claim you once more. This is the war of the two masters, the invisible conflict between who you were and who you have dared to become. And here is the paradox that deceives so many. The old state grows loudest when it is closest to dissolution. Just as night is darkest before dawn, doubt often rises with unusual force in the final hour before manifestation breaks forth. You think this sudden heaviness is a sign of failure, yet it is only the last echo of a self that feels itself dying. This discomfort you feel is not a warning, but a sign that the old identity is losing its grip. If you judge by appearances in this hour, you retreat. If you remain faithful, the new reality emerges. So when doubt surges at its strongest, do not interpret it as defeat. It is the old master making one final plea for your attention, for every state fights for survival. The question is simple. Which master will you serve? Will you return to the familiar bondage of the senses, or will you remain loyal to the unseen end you have already chosen? Stand still in that inner conviction, and the conflict will cease, for no state can withstand the unwavering light of your fidelity. When the old master rises and whispers its familiar question, But how will this thing be done? You must not entertain the inquiry, for the question is the very breath of doubt. We do not conquer doubt by argument, but by turning away from it entirely. You must replace the question with the answer. The instant the mind asks how, return at once to the feeling of the wish fulfilled and say within yourself, I do not know how, I only know it is done. This simple pivot, repeated faithfully, starves the former state and strengthens the new. For imagination responds to your inner conclusion, not to the noise that precedes it. Do not wrestle with the rising thought. To fight the doubt is to feed it, to give it substance by regarding it as something that must be overcome. Instead, turn completely from the shadow and assume the atmosphere of the end, as though you had stepped into another room, a quiet chamber where the desire is already matured. Let the body take on the posture of fulfillment. Let the breath soften. Let the inner tone shift from questioning to possession and remain there until the new state feels natural. This is the victory, not struggle, but the effortless knowing that the work is finished within. And should the doubt return, as echoes always do, greet it not as an enemy, but as a reminder to choose again. The old state does not vanish in a single hour. It fades as your loyalty shifts. Each time you turn from the question to the answer, from the fear to the fulfillment, you are chiseling away the former identity and establishing the new. Persist in this quiet pivot, and the day will come when doubt no longer rises, for it has no place in the being you have become. Walk now as the one who has received, not the one who waits, for waiting is the denial of the gift, but possession is its acceptance. Now, let us go into the silence.